Hi, my name is Christopher Hodges. I'm the author of Noble Automation Now. This video is about what is intelligent automation. And the reason we're talking about intelligent automation is because it forms the core component and ingredient to a Noble automation implementation. So the first thing we'll do is do a baseline of what is intelligent automation, and more importantly, why does it matter to you? So what is intelligent automation? Well, that could be a complicated subject. For today, I'm going to break it down into three core components. The first component is new technology. It involves using some or all of a basket of new technology. The second portion of this will be simulated thinking. We all talk about artificial intelligence, simulated thinking. We'll talk a little bit about how that relates to intelligent automation. And then the third part is going to be how this complements the existing technologies and existing infrastructures in a business. The fourth point is, so what? Why should anyone care? Is this some sort of technology geekery, or is this critical, important business ideas or concepts? And I'd argue it's the latter, not the former. So let's talk about the technology. In order for something to be an intelligent automation implementation, it can range from something relatively simple, like robotic process automation, or it can range all the way out to something that's machine learning and artificial intelligence. So robotic process automation is a technology that, implemented on a desktop or through a server, looks like a human being doing transactions in a business. And what I mean by that is it can open an email and an Excel file and a core system or an ERP, and it can move information back and forth. It can operate under rules and make decisions that a human being could make if that human being had agreed upon rules. So that's a very important part of intelligent automation, or any automation in that matter. The second component is business process management. And why is that important? Well, you can run something automated without any business process management, but most processes are not being automated completely end to end. And so you have a portion perhaps that is automated, then a portion that has human interaction, then another portion that's automated or involves customer interaction. And what business process management allows you to do is keep that whole process going through. Think of that guy sitting on the back of the boat saying, row, 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 and the oars are moving forward. So in its simplest form, it helps that process stay synchronized and things to get done. It can also take on it's sophisticated and advanced forms, but don't get distracted by that. You can start at a very simple level and still get massive improvements. The third component is some form of machine learning. Well, what is machine learning? Well, you can spend a lot of hours online reading about that, but I would simplify it as this. Machine learning is technology's ability, programmed ability, to look at data, either historical data or data going forward from today, and develop patterns from that data, to start to see the patterns that emerge from data and make implications from the patterns that emerge from that data. So if you combine robotic process automation, business process management, and some form of machine learning, you get an intelligent automation implementation. Sometimes that's also called cognitive automation. The next dimension, and there are other tools that are essential to make this really powerful, one of which is computer recognition of analog inputs like voice and images. So if a computer needs to act digitally, it needs to figure out what it's interacting with in the analog world. That's voice or image. So there are whole schools of thought and technologies around being able to do that. Imagine these autonomous driving cars need to figure out, is that a stop sign or a green light or a pedestrian or whatever? That's very sophisticated image recognition. And voice recognition is for that chatbot or that digital virtual assistant to listen to you talk. They need to be able to convert that to words that they can put into the computer. So that's why that's a powerful tool in this combination. So that's the digital virtual assistant is the next piece, and that looks like kind of like an animated Pixar kind of person you're talking to on the screen. But in reality, that is a digital assistant, digital virtual assistant. And they have that person, a female, male, whatever they make the person on the screen, actually interacts with you kind of like a human. But really, they're following rules and very prescribed boundaries. Then a more simple definition would be, or an example is chatbots. So you're typing on your phone and you're trying to get some customer service, and the chatbot has increasingly more scope and ability to be able to solve your questions. So chatbots are also an important extension. So this is taking that internal intelligent automation core and being able to reach out to the people it needs to impact. So this is a combination of some of the tools. There are many more tools beyond this, but this should give you and your team an exciting kind of pool of ideas to say, wow, what could we do with that? Well, that takes us to the next point, which is simulated thinking. So what is simulated thinking? Well, simulated thinking means on the outside, it looks like a person thought that through. It looks like a human being was doing some thinking, right? And you say, well, the machine did it. Well, that can be as simple as you do something and it responds to you. You type something into your phone and it responds. Well, wow, that looks like a person did that. Well, no, it probably started as something as simple as following specific rules. Now, you can have simple rules. You can have super complex rules. They will all look like simulated thinking if the person interacting with them doesn't ask questions outside the rules, right? Wow, look, they knew the answer. So that's a version of simulated thinking. But simulated thinking gets more sophisticated. So it's the ability to recognize patterns and trends. So now the technology is able to pick up on patterns and trends that are evolving, saying, well, the last 73 out of 100 times this took place, it meant this. So the new rule should be, and you can see how that can escalate forward, and it becomes predictive technology as to what's happening by looking at the data. And then the final point is that the machine can, not all do, can begin to learn. And once those patterns recognition and the rule modification goes back into the training of the machine gets increasingly sophisticated at being able to follow rules and do things. And it looks like simulated thinking. It looks like cognitive automation or cognitive computing. And that's what the word cognitive, you may hear that as well. So it's really quasi-thinking, or what I call simulated thinking. The next major component of this is that it complements the existing. So people think of, what are all these technologies going to do to my existing business? Well, the first thing complementing the existing means, first thing it's relevant, is it works with current systems. Most of these technologies simply plug into, lay on top of, interact with the existing systems you have. Now that should give your CIO a chance to take a deep breath and go, whew, that's good, because we just finished stabilizing the last system. And that's true. It goes on top. So that can be very powerful that you don't have to disrupt your core business, but it also means something else has to be maintained and worked with, right? Because it's new technology. However, the fact that you're not ripping out your ERP to start over to go down your intelligent automation journey is somewhat comforting, I think, to most of the senior IT leaders. The second point is that it changes the way people work. There's a lot of fear about, does it get rid of everybody? Well, that's the wrong question, I think, to ask. The question is to say, what's it going to change? Well, what it changes is the way people work. Specifically, it removes a lot of the drudgery, the routine things. I'm going to do 1,000 of these a day or whatever. It removes that from somebody having to do that. And it allows them to do what human beings actually do much better, which is to think, feel, act, respond to human beings. Human beings are not great at mass reproduction of the same step over and over and over again. However, that takes us then to the next step, which is it changes who you need. So even if the same person comes to work, you need a different part of that person to be functioning in the office. And that person is the more human side. You need less of the machine side and more of the human side, because the machines are going to take care of the machine stuff and the humans are going to take care of the human stuff. And in my opinion, that is never going to go away, right? Just like when looms came, automated looms came into the world to make fabric. There were all kinds of other opportunities for people who used to sit there and weave, right? They could do other things. They could create all kinds of new fabrics and designs and sell them differently. So it's not about, everyone's going to disappear, but it is going to change the part of who you need to show up. So why does any of this matter? That's the so what, right? Okay, cool, that's some sort of technology stuff. Well, here's why, so what? And this is why it matters from the C-suite down to the person you just hired into the company. Because it's changing almost everything. And if it's not changing your individual business yet, it is likely to change your individual business. And even if you are in the incredibly small minority of people who will not be impacted in some way by this technology, your supply chain is. The people who are either providing you services or you are providing services to are going to be taking advantage of these kinds of technologies one way or the other. So it's coming, it's here in some cases, in your company it may be here thoroughly. So bottom line is it's changing almost everything. The good news is that presents huge opportunities. Every time humanity comes up with a great innovation, there's all kinds of turmoil that first comes up, and eventually we figure out what to do with it. Take the internet, for example, right? And that's a relatively recent invention. Scared everybody or bored everybody, and now you can't live without it, right? So there are huge opportunities to make the world better. But with every huge opportunity, there's also a huge risk. What are those risks? I would describe those risks as two things. You can blow this with the technology and spend a whole bunch of money and say, oh man, what did we do? This was a disaster, right? Well, that's been true since technology was invented. There are some good, concrete ways to implement technology successfully and get the most out of this. But the second category of risk is the people risk. And I encapsulate that by one question. What does it cost you if you lose one of your best people? How much does that cost you in time, in energy, in intellectual capital in that person's head? The answer is it costs you a lot. What if you lose 10% of your best people because you don't handle the implementation of this stuff well? Well, that is exactly what Noble Automation is all about. And we'll cover that in the next video. Those are the huge risks you can avoid and you can thrive. So the last point is simply that leaders cannot ignore this. You have to know. You don't have to become an expert, but you have to know that it's there because people are looking to you to lead, to figure out what they should or shouldn't do with some of this stuff, or to be empowered. So my wish to you is on the next video, which is all about Noble Automation. I'll show you some ways that successful companies have taken these incredibly powerful tools and used them to the advantage of them, their customers, and all of their stakeholders. So until then, see you soon.